You make things feel less hollow." He whispered it, the words hanging in the humid night air, and in that single, stunning moment, I felt an undeniable shock course through me. The truth was stark and terrifying. My neighbor's son was seeing me, truly seeing me, in a way no one had in years. Hello and welcome back to Hidden Love Stories. Before we delve into today's deeply emotional narrative, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to our channel so you never miss a story, and if this one resonates with you, press 1 in the comments below. The afternoon sun slanted through the blinds, painting long, contemplative stripes across my living room rug. It was one of those quiet Tuesdays where the loudest sound was the ponderous ticking of the grandfather clock in the hall. Usually, that sound soothed me, a steady heartbeat for the house. But today, it felt like it was marking time I wasn't quite sure what to do with. My kids are grown and scattered across the country like dandelion seeds, and since my husband Richard passed 3 years ago, the house has often felt achingly vast, its silence a palpable presence. I'd just finished my lukewarm tea, debating the merits of tackling the overgrown rose bushes versus succumbing to the siren call of a nap, when I heard the familiar, comforting rumble of Carol Harrison's SUV pulling into the driveway next door. Carol and Tom were good neighbors, the kind you could genuinely rely on for a cup of sugar or to keep an eye on your place when you were away. I knew their youngest, Liam, was visiting. He was in his late 20s, I guessed, a software engineer living somewhere impossibly cool and distant on the West Coast. I'd seen him around during holidays over the years, a polite but intensely quiet young man who always seemed a bit lost in his own world, his gaze fixed on some internal horizon. Later that evening, the neighborhood association was hosting its annual summer potluck at Community Park. Typically, I'd bring my famous potato salad, make the requisite small talk for an hour, and then retreat to the quiet comfort of my home. It was a part of the suburban ritual, a dance of pleasantries. Tonight felt different, though. Maybe it was the lingering quiet of the afternoon that had seeped into my bones. Or maybe, just maybe, it was a profound desire for some human connection that wasn't filtered through a phone screen or a polite email. A quiet but insistent pull urged me out the door. I decided to go. The park was a symphony of summer life. Kids shrieking with joy on the playground, adults clustered around picnic tables laden with a feast of Americana, the air thick with the nostalgic scent of barbecue and citronella. I found a spot on a slightly less crowded bench near the edge of the main gathering, under the sprawling, ancient shade of a large oak tree. I'd just settled my plate of pasta salad and a burger on my lap when a shadow fell over me. "Mind if I join you?" Everywhere else seemed pretty packed. It was Liam Harrison. He gestured vaguely towards the crowded tables with a small, almost shy smile. "Not at all," I said, shifting over slightly. "Plenty of room." He sat down, balancing his own plate with a careful sort of grace. He wasn't the gangly, awkward teenager I vaguely remembered. He'd filled out, his shoulders broad beneath a simple gray t-shirt. There were faint lines around his eyes when he smiled, eyes that were a surprising deep shade of green, like moss after a cleansing rain. We sat in silence for a few moments, but it was the comfortable kind, a shared stillness amidst the cheerful chaos around us. I noticed his hands, long fingers, clean nails, the kind of hands that looked like they knew their way around a keyboard, but also perhaps a guitar. He caught me looking and quickly tucked them under his thighs, a slight attractive flush creeping up his neck. It was strangely endearing. "Your mom's macaroni and cheese is legendary," I offered, the words feeling like a small stone tossed into a quiet pond. He laughed, a nice sound, low and genuine, that seemed to vibrate in the air between us. Yeah, she guards that recipe like it's a state secret. I've been trying to get it out of her for years. Some secrets are best kept, I smiled. Adds to the mystique. He nodded, taking a thoughtful bite of the mac and cheese. So, he began after swallowing. You're Sarah, right? My folks mention you. That's me, I confirmed. And you're Liam, the prodigal son returns. He chuckled again. Something like that. Just needed a break from the city grind. Thought some time back home, some of Mom's cooking, might do the trick. A weariness laced his voice that hadn't been there moments before, a subtle weight that pulled at the corners of his smile, hinting at stories untold. It was that unexpected glimpse beneath the polite surface that intrigued me. Our conversation flowed easily after that. It wasn't about anything profound, not really. We talked about the neighborhood, how it had changed, the ridiculousness of the Homeowners Association's new rules about lawn ornaments. He told me a funny story about his cat back in Seattle, and I shared an anecdote about my daughter's recent disastrous attempt at baking. It was simple, uncomplicated conversation, yet underneath it, I felt a strange magnetic current. It wasn't flirtatious, not in any traditional sense. It was a sense of recognition, of seeing someone, and perhaps being seen in return, in a way that felt deeply unfamiliar but not unwelcome. He didn't look at me like I was just his parents' neighbor, a middle-aged woman filling time at a potluck. He looked at me like I was a person, interesting and engaging in my own right. And maybe I looked at him differently too, not just as Carol's boy, but as a thoughtful man with kind eyes and a quiet, compelling depth. The sun began its final descent, casting long, dramatic shadows across the grass and painting the sky in fiery hues of orange and purple. The crowd started to thin as families packed up coolers and herded tired, happy children home. Liam made no move to leave, and neither did I. He started talking about his job, the immense pressure, the disquieting feeling of being a small, replaceable cog in a giant, indifferent machine. It wasn't a complaint, more of a quiet, existential musing. Sometimes I wonder what it's all for, you know, he said, his gaze distant, fixed on the darkening playground. You build these complex systems, these intricate lines of code, but does it actually matter? It was a question I'd often asked myself, a silent refrain in the quiet hours since Richard was gone. What was the point of the neatly folded laundry, the meticulously weeded garden, the perfectly balanced checkbook? I think, I said slowly, choosing my words with care, that finding meaning is less about the grand scale and more about the small connections. The code you write connects people, helps them communicate, learn, maybe even just escape for a little while. That matters. He turned to look at me, his green eyes searching mine in the fading light, seeking something I couldn't name. You think so? I do, I affirmed, my voice softer than I intended. Just like this conversation. It's not changing the world, but perhaps it's making this little corner of it feel a bit less lonely for a moment. That matters too. A slow, genuine smile spread across his face, reaching his eyes this time, illuminating them from within. Yeah, he breathed out, the word a soft puff of air. Yeah, I guess it does. We sat there as dusk settled completely, the first stars beginning to prick the deep velvet of the twilight sky. The air grew cooler, carrying the rich, earthy scent of cut grass and damp earth. The easy silence returned, but this time it felt charged, alive with unspoken understanding. It was the profound feeling of finding an unexpected harbor in a quiet conversation under an old oak tree. Have you ever felt that spark of unexpected connection with someone? Press 1 in the comments if you know the feeling. And please, don't forget to subscribe. The next few days passed in a pleasant, slightly altered rhythm. I saw Liam around, walking his parents' ancient, lumbering golden retriever, fiddling with the engine of his dad's old pickup truck, or just sitting on their porch swing with his laptop. We'd exchange waves, sometimes chat for a few minutes over the fence about the weather or the stubborn crabgrass invading my flower beds. Each small interaction felt like adding another delicate brushstroke to a painting I hadn't even known I was creating. There was a profound ease between us, a lack of pretense that was as refreshing as a cool drink on a hot day. One sweltering afternoon, I was struggling with a heavy bag of mulch in my front yard, the plastic digging painfully into my fingers. Suddenly, Liam was there, jogging across the lawn as if summoned. "Need a hand with that, Sarah?" he asked, already reaching for the bag. "Oh, Liam, thank you." "This stuff weighs a ton," I puffed, deeply grateful. He lifted it with an ease that belied its weight, carrying it over to the rose bushes I was working on. "No problem at all." "Looks like you're putting in some serious work here." "Trying to," I sighed, wiping a bead of sweat from my forehead with the back of my hand. "These roses are needier than my kids were as toddlers," he laughed, setting the mulch down gently. "My mom says the same thing about her azaleas." He lingered, leaning against the same oak tree that shaded my yard. "Actually," he said, looking down at his hands, then back up at me, his gaze direct. "I was wondering, I'm trying to troubleshoot a weird bug in this personal project I'm working on, and honestly, talking it through sometimes helps." My parents' eyes just glaze over when I mention code. You don't have to, but would you mind just listening for a bit? Sometimes just explaining it out loud makes the solution appear. I was surprised, but also deeply touched. "I know absolutely nothing about code, Liam," I warned him, smiling, "but I'm a very good listener. Pull up some lawn." He grabbed one of the plastic Adirondack chairs from my porch and sat opposite me under the tree's dappled shade. He opened his laptop, the screen casting a faint, ethereal glow on his focused face. He started explaining, masterfully using analogies I could understand, comparing lines of code to recipes, functions to specific kitchen tools. He spoke with a quiet passion, his initial shyness completely replaced by a focused, intellectual enthusiasm. I didn't understand the technical details, of course, but I understood the frustration in his voice when he described the glitch, the intellectual mountain he was trying to climb. I listened intently, asking occasional, probably naive questions, trying to follow the intricate logic he laid out. He never once made me feel stupid for not getting it. He just patiently rephrased or found a different, more fitting analogy. After about 20 minutes, he suddenly stopped, stared at his screen, typed furiously for a moment, and then leaned back with a profound sigh of relief. "Wait a second. Yes, that's it." Talking about the user input sequence, you asking why it needed that specific validation right there. It made me realize I'd put it in the wrong module entirely. He looked up at me, a wide, incredulous, and utterly beautiful grin spreading across his face. "Sarah, you're a genius," I laughed, shaking my head. "Hardly. I just asked a question." "No, but you listened," he insisted, his eyes bright with discovery. "Really listened. Nobody does that anymore. Not really. Everyone's just waiting for their turn to talk or checking their phone." He closed the laptop. "Thank you. Seriously." "Anytime," I said, and I meant it with all my heart. Though I can't promise I'll have any useful input next time. "Just listening is useful," he repeated softly, the words carrying a weight far beyond their simplicity. We sat there for a while longer, the earlier ease returning, now deepened by this shared moment of problem solving, however one-sided the actual solving might have been. He started asking me about my life before Richard, my career in library archiving, a part of my life I rarely spoke about anymore. He seemed genuinely interested, asking thoughtful, probing questions. I found myself opening up, sharing stories I hadn't thought about in years, remembering the deep satisfaction of preserving fragile historical documents, the quiet, sacred hum of the research rooms. It felt good to revisit that part of myself, to see it reflected and valued in someone else's interested gaze. The afternoon shadows lengthened into evening, and the oppressive heat began to soften. There was a comfortable, unfolding intimacy in our conversation, a quiet sharing under the shade of the old tree. It felt like we were uncovering layers, not just in each other, but within ourselves. A couple of evenings later, Carol mentioned they were planning a small barbecue, just family, before Liam headed back to Seattle in a few days. "You should absolutely come, Sarah," she insisted with a warm smile. "Keep us old folks company while Liam talks about algorithms or whatever it is he does." I hesitated for only a second before accepting. The thought of spending another evening in Liam's quiet, thoughtful company was surprisingly, powerfully appealing. The barbecue was relaxed and intimate, just Carol, Tom, Liam, and me on their back deck. Tom grilled burgers, Carol fussed over the side dishes, and Liam seemed more relaxed than I'd ever seen him, laughing easily at his dad's terrible jokes. As twilight deepened into a soft, velvety darkness, Tom and Carol went inside to tidy up, leaving Liam and me alone on the deck, nursing our drinks. The tiki torches cast flickering, dancing shadows, and the scent of grilled food mingled with the sweet, intoxicating fragrance of Carol's night-blooming jasmine. "You know," Liam said, his voice breaking the comfortable silence, "that conversation we had the other day under your tree." I nodded, watching the first fireflies begin to blink their silent, magical language in the yard. "It meant a lot," he continued, his voice low and serious. "It's been a weird couple of years for me. Work, life, everything felt kind of hollow. Coming back here, I didn't expect much beyond nostalgia and decent food." He paused, swirling the ice in his glass. "But talking with you, it's different. You don't try to fix things or offer platitudes. You just listen and you see things." I turned to look at him. His profile was sharply etched against the soft glow from the house, his expression serious and achingly vulnerable. "Maybe it's because I'm at a point in my life where I appreciate genuine connection more than easy answers," I said softly. "Life teaches you that the platitudes wear thin pretty quickly." He met my gaze, his green eyes seeming impossibly deep in the torchlight. "You make things feel less hollow." The air between us suddenly felt charged, thick with unspoken emotion and possibility. It wasn't uncomfortable, but it was potent, electric. It was the culmination of shared glances, quiet conversations, and those unexpected moments of profound understanding. There was a magnetic pull, a recognition of a shared loneliness perhaps, or simply a profound, unexpected empathy that defied logic and age. He leaned forward slightly, his hand resting on the armrest between us. I could feel the warmth radiating from him, a living heat in the cool night air. My heart was beating a little faster, a forgotten youthful rhythm. This was uncharted territory. He was my neighbor's son. I was old enough to be, well, significantly older. Yet the connection felt startlingly real, untainted by those labels, existing purely in the supercharged space between us under the jasmine-scented sky. It was terrifying and exhilarating all at once. He didn't move any closer. He didn't break the gaze. His eyes held a question, but also a deep, unwavering respect. It wasn't the predatory look you sometimes got from men, regardless of age. It was open, uncertain, almost reverent. In that moment, I felt seen not as a widow, a neighbor, or an older woman, but as me, Sarah, a person with her own history, her own quiet strength, her own capacity for connection. He reached out very, very slowly, and his fingertips brushed against the back of my hand where it rested on the chair arm. It wasn't a caress, not quite. It was a point of contact, electric and grounding all at once. A spark, faint but definite, jumped between us. My breath hitched. I didn't pull away. I couldn't. His touch lingered for just a heartbeat, a silent, profound acknowledgement of the energy flowing between us. Then, just as slowly, he withdrew his hand, his gaze dropping for a second before meeting mine again. A faint, sad smile touched his lips. "My flight's on Saturday," he said softly, the words hanging in the air like a final, gentle note. Reality intruded, gentle but firm. This connection, however intense and unexpected, existed within the rigid framework of our separate lives. He lived across the country, belonged to a different generation, his path stretching out before him full of unknown possibilities, while mine felt more settled, quieter. "I know," I replied, my voice equally quiet. There was no need for more words. The moment itself, that brief touch, the shared look, was the climax, an emotional peak defined by its exquisite restraint, its unspoken depth, its mutual respect. It wasn't about pursuing something impossible or inappropriate. It was about acknowledging the rare, breathtaking beauty of a connection found in the most unexpected of circumstances. It was a shared secret held in the sacred space between two people on a warm summer night. We sat in silence for a few more minutes, the intensity slowly receding, replaced by a warm, bittersweet calm. When Carol and Tom came back out, the spell was broken, but the memory of it remained, imprinted on the evening air. Liam left 2 days later. We said our goodbyes politely in his parents' driveway. A simple handshake, a shared look that held the full weight of our unspoken moments. "Thank you, Sarah," he said, "for everything." "Safe travels, Liam," I replied. "Don't be a stranger to your folks." As his car disappeared down the street, I didn't feel sad, not exactly. Instead, I felt richer. The quiet house didn't feel quite so empty. The ticking clock didn't sound quite so lonely. That brief, unexpected connection with Liam hadn't changed the fundamental facts of my life, but it had fundamentally shifted something within me. It reminded me that emotional intimacy can blossom in the most surprising places, that vulnerability is a strength, and that being truly seen, even for a short while, is one of life's most profound gifts. It was a startling, powerful reminder that life, even in its quiet middle chapters, could still hold moments of unexpected, breathtaking beauty and connection. I went back inside, made myself a fresh cup of tea, and sat by the window, watching the afternoon sun slant through the blinds. The stripes on the rug looked different now. Somehow, they were brighter. This story is a reminder that the most meaningful connections often come from where we least expect them, and that beauty is often found not in a destination, but in a quiet, shared moment. Thank you for listening. Please like this video if you felt something, and don't forget to press 1 in the comments to let us know it touched you. We'll see you in the next story.